Are you still salty at Mitchell over the surfboards?
I am. I am still salty at Mitchell. Yeah. God, it was so long ago, and it's still like that experience was so um is so burned into my brain. So every year for my birthday, for a while, I would get a bunch of people together and we go to Prices Right, and it was like an all day thing, and we went several times and none of our group got called up, and then the one time I did, and it's wild up there because um it's you're obviously the adrenaline is like running through you, right? Because you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be on TV, and like you obviously want to win something, right? But you can't hear anything in there. The
Mm.
studio is so loud. So, like, when the announcer's like, "Here is this, couch with the" or whatever, or "This washing machine, it's
Yeah,
this
yeah,
brand," and you, like, can't hear. So, you're really taking a shot in the dark at, like, what you're bidding on. But yeah, I got outbid by a dollar, and, I was a little bummed, but it was, like, a really awesome experience, and I had a great time, and, like, I mean, this was what, like 15 years ago or whatever. It was a long time ago. So, and we still talk about it. So it was obviously like a good memory and a good time. But yeah, I joke that we that I'll get like we ever have a meetup with the community that I'll set up for all of us to go to Prices Right.
Editor Bongo here. If you like the interview with Coco, please consider subscribing. I do interviews with a wide range of folks, and I would really love to have you. All right, back to the video.
This is, I guess, kind of an off the ball question. I don't know if you're from Venice Beach or just lived there or lived there. I don't know where you're based currently. One of the things I love about the area, just and not that I'm intimately familiar with it, I've only been there a couple times, but there's such a wonderful skate scene there. And I guess I'm just curious if you've had any interactions with that at all, or if not, if there are any other little subcultures in the area that you're particularly fond of.
Yeah, I think, I've been a beach girl my whole life. I've lived in Southern California my whole life, and I've lived up and down the coast all over, and, um, yeah, there's a heavy skate scene, there's obviously a heavy surf scene, but what I love about LA in particular is just the diversity of the city. People are always, "Why do you live in LA? It's so expensive," you know?
Hmm.
And I think that, um what people don't realize is, like, I have access to anything I want, any type of food, any type of cultural event, like, I and I love that. I love being able to experience other people's, backgrounds and cultures, and, so I think that, like, in LA and by the beaches specifically, like, yeah, there's a heavy, like, skate culture and surf culture, which I used to be a skater when I was younger, not anymore. I don't have the coordination anymore, but I used to be a skater when I was a teenager. Surfing not so much, but, what I really enjoy about these areas is just the diversity of things like food and art and, like, a lot of the cultural stuff that, I forget that a lot of places don't have that, you know? This is, especially in big metropolitan cities, like, there's obviously a lot of cons to living in a place like LA, but the fact that I have access to so much here, like, makes it totally worth it, you know? Plus I
Hmm.
have the weather and the beach.
Well, yeah, I mean it's interesting. I live in Spokane, Washington. I don't know if you know it. It's like a and
Yeah.
yeah, um, and it's well, and I grew up in like the country, right? So it's always interesting to me hearing people talk who like grew up in larger areas because that's like so foreign to me. I mean, like even to this day, like if every time I see a like a band tour announcement, I'm like scroll, 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 Seattle, Portland, fuck, and then it goes to Vancouver. It skips us. Every so often, someone comes here, but yeah, no, that's awesome. I think it's like so life giving to just be able to like, walk around and see different kinds of cool shit, And it's also, I
Yeah.
think, at least in my opinion, I think there's something so wonderful. I don't I don't really like, knowing everything or like always getting what I expect. And I think one of the cool things about having, a wide range of people, cultures, food, everything is that, you're always going to be surprised by something. And then I think with any surprise, you have the opportunity to learn more and to grow as a person, It's just
Yeah,
super cool. But
totally. And music too. Like I know you're a big music fan.
oh yeah.
Like the the access I have to music here is unreal. I mean, but the pandemic really messed a lot of that up. But
Mm,
before the pandemic, I was going and seeing live music like once a week. And anything from, like, big arena shows to, like, the small shitty dive bar down the street, you know?
mm.
And, or, like, jazz. There were so many jazz clubs. It's really sad because like, there were so many jazz clubs all around LA, and a lot of them closed down because they couldn't survive the pandemic, so, but, like, that's something too. I'm a musician. I just music fulfills a part of me that nothing else can, so, like, having access to that is so important, and being able to experience a live show and experience instruments and voices live is, like, a huge thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree, and I think like there have been a couple concerts I've seen. I haven't been to that many, 10, 15, something like that. Um, but some of the ones I've seen, MCR was definitely one of them. Always, I would say was one. Superorganism, Paul McCartney. I could go on, but um, every so often you see one, and it's just like, at least for me, when I see something like that exceptional, I'm just like, holy shit! It just kind of like redefines my concept of what is possible and all these different things, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's so important to have you know, vibrant art scenes, across, you know, that's one of the things I love so much about um, like digital hardcore, like hyperpop scenes is that they're so local and and I don't really go out. I'm very introverted, but, um, you know, there are a lot of, what's the phrasing I'm looking for? I think the community is like, they're smaller communities. They're very geographically based. So like you could realistically know like the biggest hyperpop artist in your city or whatever because they're just a normal person.
Mhm.
And I think that's so cool. And I don't know. I love that we're kind of getting a little bit back to that. You talked about music and the influence of them on you. I was going to get to this later, but we'll do it now. Something I talked my last interview was with this Batman Arkham YouTuber, this wonderful guy, Gotham Paladin, an absolute treat talking to him. But one of the things we talked about is I asked him, for him, there are a lot of characters that had a huge influence on him. He talked about Dragon Ball, Spider-Man, Batman. For me, similar things with different characters. But, for you, I know there have been a lot of people who've influenced your life. I'd like to just hit you with a couple names and just, if you could just tell me maybe one thing that you took from them or would like to take from them, if that's all right with you. I'll go ahead. Just the first one, Joan Jett. What would you like to take from Joan Jett, or what have you taken from Joan Jett?
Oh my god, what a badass woman. Like, in a time where I mean, we still experience today just, like, women really struggling in
Mm,
lots of different industries, especially the entertainment industry and the music industry. Like, she was such a powerhouse, um, and really held her own back in a time that was probably worse than what it is now, you know? Like,
mm,
you see a lot more, women being the front person of a band. Like, you see more women lead singers, you see more, and I think that, like, back, when she first started to become really popular, having a woman in rock and roll was just not as common, and, you see it a lot now, but, um, just, like, being unafraid to be different and to trailblaze something. Or I'm not saying she, like, trailblazed, like, women in rock and roll, like, definitely not,
I know
but
what you mean. Yeah.
she was a big, big part of that, and she just is still kicking ass today, and, is still rocking, like, her leather pants on stage, and I'm like, "God, she's so cool. I wanna be like her when I grow up," you know? Um, but, women in general are just so, especially in industries that, it's really hard to thrive as a woman, you know, sh Twitch streaming, music, it's just I'm so inspired by those people because, it's sometimes it's hard. Like, sometimes you come across obstacles, or, I come across a lot of misogyny on the internet, and it's like,
Mm.
sometimes it's hard to put on that face and get the tough skin on and, like, just be like, "You know what? It's one person, whatever, we move on." But, like, when it happens all the time, sometimes it's hard, you know? So you look at people like Joan Jett, or you look at someone like Hayley Williams, like, damn, like, they can do it, I can do it,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's funny. I mean, there's so many things to dive into there, and that's one of the unfortunate things about interviews is so many great things are mentioned, and I have to just pick one instead of what I would like to do is sequentially go through like all 20 ideas, but that's obviously impossible. Um, you
No,
mentioned the
don't do that with I'm a certified yapper. I will talk your ear off for hours and hours and hours.
No,
So
I love it. You're doing great. One of the things I love about that idea, of trailblazers, I think the thing that people perhaps in my opinion, miss about that is it's not just about the history books. It's not just about, on Wikipedia, Joan Jett was the first person to do it. Because, of course, there's going to be someone who inspired Joan Jett, and then that person's, it goes down and down the line until, the Garden of Eden or whatever. But, like, I think the thing that is so important about that is not just who came first or whatever, but just who was the first one that you found, the first person who spoke to you. And like, I mean, I'm still finding that. Like, there's this band, I don't know if you're familiar, there's this band Machine Girl that I absolutely adore. And Matt Stevenson, the front person, like Trent Reznor, the Trent Reznor, the artistic mind of that band is what I'm trying to say. Like they're one of those people who's just so like insane and out there, but like the fact that Matt has found success is, one of those things like to me, I'm just like, holy shit, that's crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's so important to see people who, to see yourself in people who were successful, like especially in like I don't know. I think it's especially an American thing, in my opinion, at least, because I feel like a lot of people. It's probably a lot worse for women, but I've experienced a bit of this myself too. I think a lot of people grow up being told, "Oh, you're never going to amount to anything," blah blah blah, whatever it is. So I feel like it's really important to see someone who's like, "Well, but wait, they can do it, so I can't," that thing. Um, so yeah, I totally feel you there. Well, I have a few more names for you. Um, I don't know her name, so I apologize. But your high school chemistry teacher, what's something you
oh,
took from her, would like to take from her?
oh my gosh. She made learning fun, like I think it's important, a lot of what I do is about learning from each other. And, you know, uh on my stream it's, of course we talk about video games, we talk about music and all these things, but there are
Mm,
also what's really important to me is our connection with people. And I think in our world today, a lot of us and the way that our society moves and our political I won't get into like the political stuff, but like the way that our political climate moves, I think we forget about human connection.
mm,
And so um it's all about learning from each other. Like we all have individual experiences and we all have uh different backgrounds. We all come from different walks of life. And that's what I love about Twitch too, because I have gotten to know people that I never would have gotten to know otherwise, right? And I've learned so much. Like even in the last, so I've been on Twitch for 8 8 years, and the amount of growth, like personal growth that I've had, not only learning about other people, other cultures, other experiences, but also about myself, is huge. And I finally feel like I'm at a place in my life, I'm approaching 40 where I actually feel like I know who I am and I know what I want to be and I know um how I want to impact this world and leave like my handprint on this world and what I want to accomplish like when I end up leaving this world. And so when I look back at like my education and I wanted to become like a chemist. I wanted to do science, but life took me in a different direction, which is totally fine. Um but she was really incredible on uh making learning and like presenting learning in a way that is fun, is not like a burden, it's not a chore. It's makes you better. And that's what I loved about her. And she made, she's the reason why I studied chemistry in college because she presented the material in a way that made me love it, that made me have a passion for it. And so like so much of what I do now, even when I mentor other streamers or I mentor like another speedrunner or something, like a lot of what she did like really kind of reflects in how I approach teaching things or explaining how to do something. Um, she was amazing. I've lost touch with her. I have not, um, I have not talked to her in many, many years, and I wish that one day I could, because I just wanted to I want to thank her for everything that she did for me, because she's the reason why I got into college. Like, she's the reason why I studied chemistry. She's the reason why I'm successful today. She's a big part of that. So.
Yeah, I mean, God, again, there's so many things, and it's that's the greatest tragedy. Is like, I wish there was a multiverse so I could see how every one of the follow-ups would go, because I'm so curious, but that's not how it works. Um, okay, I'll pick this one. So I'll get back to the next two names in a little bit, but you segued perfectly into a question I'd written down. Does your chemistry background make you a better Christmas cookie baker?
I want to say, it's funny because cooking is chemistry. It really, really is. Um, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah.
They can't prove it doesn't.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know what? I do think so. Like the method, like the strategy and the method that goes like behind mixing chemicals in a lab, I guess is similar to cooking. Like, you have to be really precise and you have to be like really disciplined. So sure. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right, I got a couple more names for you. Mikey Way. What can you tell me
Mhm.
about Mikey Way?
Oh my god, he's my favorite bassist. It's so funny because like when people tell me, like, ask me like who's your favorite bassist, right? Like, who's your it, like, they expect me to say like Les Claypool, or you know what I mean? Like, they expect me to
Yeah,
or they
yeah,
they say like, who's your favorite band? Like, is it Rush, or is it I'm like, no, it's none of those. Um while they are fantastic and I appreciate, um
no,
it's
I get what
just
you're saying.
I it's really important, like, people that inspire me are people that, like, I see myself in,
Hmm.
and, Mikey Way is one of those bassists that, when you look at MCR songs and the bass lines for them, it is so similar to the way that I love to play bass, which is more of, like, a background role where you're just kinda, like, holding down the low end versus, like,
Hmm.
trying to come up with some funky bass line to stick out in the background, because I love simplicity in songs. Like, I really think that there's a value in that, and a value in a musician to be able to create a song or create a riff or, a melody. If you can create one that's simple but still is impactful, like, that's where I feel like the magic happens. Like, and if you look at some of the most famous bands or groups, like, some of them have that where they just like there's nothing really extravagant about their bass line, but it's like, damn, it hits and it feels good and like it makes you want to move. And I feel like that's what Mikey does. And as someone who is disabled and has a really hard time doing a lot of complicated things on the bass and on instruments, because I am very limited in my mobility and in my strength, like, the fact that his band is doing a stadium tour right now, and he's over there just, like, vibing is so cool. Um, and I don't know, I just the way that he plays bass just resonates so much with me, and, I love playing MC I love covering MCR songs, and, I guess I really like emo songs in general, so, but I just love what he does on the bass, and, um it's not flashy, but it's, like, super impactful, and that's, like I feel like that's kind of like me as a musician, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I think my brush with that would be that's one of the things I love about like Nevermind, for example, is that's an album that it's like it doesn't take you a super long time to know what's happening. There's a guitar, there's drums, there's bass, and there's vocals. Like Nine Inch Nails is probably my favorite band, and that's one of those things you can listen to that a song 500 times and you won't figure out what's happening. But and I love that too. But I think there's something really kind of cool about just something being kind of straightforward but still just rocking, you know? Because I think that's, I don't know, that is a little bit of a pet peeve for me. I think sometimes people just put stuff in just to have it be busy, you know? And I think there's a real skill in being able to kind of pull things out and just leave only what needs to be there, you know? I think it's a very underrated skill. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm not saying that like Mikey Way has his moments in his songs, right?
No, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like the song Planetary,
Hmm.
like that song has the coolest bass line, and it's not easy. Like for someone that I have small hands, I'm the worst person to be a bassist because I have like such small hands. But like it's tough. It's like a tough bass line, but like the way that it moves and the way that the bass line moves like really gets you like that's a dancey song, right? It's like
Hmm.
but the bass line like complements I don't know. Oh
I
gosh, I
know
don't
what you're
even know how
saying.
to explain it.
I know what
But
you're
like
saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's a song that where like his bass line really shines, I feel. And it's not easy. And so like it's not that he isn't capable of doing like or that he doesn't do any hard stuff or complicated stuff. I'm just saying like
No,
he
I know
knows when
exactly what
it's
you mean.
he
Yeah.
knows when it's time, you know. He knows when it's
Yeah.
time to, do something a little bit flashier. Um but you look at, you look at some like classic rock and someone that comes to mind like I'm a big Tom Petty and the
Hmm.
Heartbreakers fan. And if you look at Tom Petty's songs like, you hear about the four chord wonder, like it's the same chords that he uses all the time. But if you look at the way that he puts together his songs, like I hate covering Tom Petty songs, okay? Even though they're not that hard, because it's usually like a simple four chord song.
Hmm.
But the way that he arranges his songs, like he'll maybe like on the second verse, he'll like extend a chord a little bit longer than normal, or he'll like do another half verse, or he'll add something in there that makes it different where it's feels it like changes the song just enough where it makes it interesting, right? But, like, it's so simple and so subtle, and, like, a normal, I think, person that d or, like, a person that doesn't play music wouldn't notice exactly what it is, they just know it's interesting. Whereas for me as, like, a musician, I'm like, "Damn, that's so simple and so genius," and like, I would love to be able to think of stuff like that. But, like, covering it or playing it is tough, like, that's why I hate covering Tom Petty songs, 'cause I feel like you can never live up to, like, something like that, but
I guess I have a follow-up question on the
Yeah.
MCR thing, and then we'll circle back to the last name here. But um, I think, of course, there's so much to talk about with MCR. I guess the first thing I'll start with is, compared to back in the day, I think they've always been a decently successful band, but well, always, I think for a good portion of it, for probably 4 or 5 years they were, you know, struggling out there, but um, I think the cultural perception of the band clearly has changed, dramatically. I imagine that, when you were coming up, it was probably impossible to imagine them doing a stadium tour. Um, and I guess just, coming, from it as an OG fan, how does it feel now that they're kind of finally getting their flowers?
Oh, for me, it's bittersweet. I don't like
Hmm,
spending $300 on a ticket to go see MCR,
fair.
but
Yeah.
they deserve it. Um, they're geniuses. They are they're so great at, um, I think appealing to the emotions that a lot of us had, especially when we were younger and angsty and emo, right? And bands like MCR just they do a great job of kind of encompassing, I think, emotion of what it's like just to exist and how tough it is and how hard it is to I think live in the world today. I think Jared actually said, the reason why they brought MCR back is because they felt like the world needed it. Um, Which is so true. It's true because look at how many people now are doing whatever they have to get to an MCR show because, it's a little sad that it took them breaking up and being away for 10 years or however long it was, um, to really get recognized as being one of the greats, of the emo movement back, in the early 2000s. Um, but I'm glad I'm really glad that they're getting the recognition that they deserve, and um I hate the way that our concert system with Ticketmaster and Live Nation works now. It's really tough to be able to see bigger bands. It's very gate kept by financial reasons, it's really tough, but I think it's great, and I do think the world needs bands like MCR. I think the world needs music and in general, and needs to find, joy in things, and anything that can give joy to people right now, especially in our world today, I think is really important.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I'm not going to be able to put a finer point in it, so I will not try. But um, I guess just the final name here, you know the person who introduced you to Link to the Past. What can you tell me about what you took from Mama Confessioner? What you would like to?
Yeah. My mom was the gamer in our household growing up, She played the games and I watched her, because I was a little too young, I think,
Hmm.
um, and, I would remember I would watch her, it was Link to the Past and it was Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES. And, for Link to the Past, I remember just, like, loving the opportunity to, like, help my mom solve puzzles, even though I know I was not helpful at all. I know I wasn't. But, just watching her and I just found it was just, like, such a core moment of video games are cool, and I get
Hmm.
to hang out with my mom playing video games. Um, and then shortly afterwards, like, when I was able to really get into them, I've been a gamer my whole life, and that's why Link to the Past is probably my favorite game of all time. Not probably, it is. It is my favorite game of all time, but also, uh, kind of got me into speedrunning it. It's just something that I just decided on a whim, and so it's kind of a cool like full circle moment where, my mom was the one who introduced it to me, uh, and my mom like super supports what I do now, and which is really really cool, and uh it was we had an incentive to have Mama Confession on stream to play games with me, and then the pandemic happened. And then so it never happened, unfortunately, and,
We're
but
manifesting it.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe one day. But yeah, she was the one who really who she's the reason why I'm a gamer, really. Because if she didn't play video games, I wouldn't have been into them, you know? So yeah.
You mentioned speedrunning Link to the Past, and I've speedrun a little bit before. I've never played Link to the Past, but I did Star Wars Battlefront 2 Classic. That was like one of the games for me that I just played all the time as a kid. So I think my last world record was beaten recently. I haven't played in a couple of years, but um, one of the things that runners always talk about is, RNG, that aspect of it, of course, and it's completely different from game to game, what it is. Now, when with something like Link to the Past, of course, there is a ton of skill in it. Would you prefer if there was just no RNG, if it was set seed, or if it was 100% just skill, or do you kind of like that randomness of it?
I like the randomness of it. I think it makes things spicy. But I also like the idea of adjusting your run based on whatever randomness you get. I think that it's almost like a puzzle in a way. It's like, how are you gonna react to this specific situation, and how are you gonna get through it the fastest? So while I complain about it a lot, especially, in the run that I do for Link to the Past, like, there are some really, really heavy RNG spots that can kill a run. I still choose to do that over another category that doesn't have those RNG, um, spots, because I just I don't know, I just like that run better. I enjoy the process more than I do, um, any of the other categories. And I do speedrun Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle too, which does have RNG as well, but it's not as much. So I have other runs that I do that doesn't affect the run as much as far as the RNG goes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I get exactly what you mean. Like, I think there is a lot of validation that you get, and not you, the royal you, get, when like you get dealt a really shitty hand and you like still, power through it. Um, and like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I get that with interviews too, right? Like, I'm trying to think if I have an example, and I can't pull one offhand, so I'll just use a generic one. But, I never know like what mood people are gonna show up in, right? And like, I can't go to you and be like, Coco, come back when you're in a different mood. Like, that's not how that works. So
You're a little crusty today. Can you come
yeah, it's
back when
like,
when
y
you
y
had a nap?
no, and you're, of course, not at all. I just say that because you're the person here, but, and like, so I think there is, and I don't know, I think that's such a good lesson to be able to, kind of meet people where they're at and still hopefully get it to a cool place. Because, I mean, that's one of the things, like, if you meet someone and they're like crossfaded or whatever, then of course, it's not going to be very hard to talk to them. But like, there's no skill in that. There's nothing to really learn there. Like, I'm much more interested in, I don't know. I feel like the most important thing as an interviewer to me is like, well, okay, I can talk about this for like 25 minutes, and I have a bunch of questions I want to ask, so I don't want to ramble too long. But um, I'm realizing I don't know if I have an end to the statement I was making. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just what I mean to say is, I relate to what you're talking about because I think there is a lot of value in just taking, whatever you're given and making it work. I mean, I'm sure you have that with lupus and like misogyny and all these different things. Like, here's a
Yeah.
situation I have, and well, fuck it, I'm still gonna do the best I can. And of course, I don't have chronic illness, and I'm not a woman, but I have my own experiences of things like, well, if this was like an MMO, I probably wouldn't pick that character trait, or I wouldn't have the slider set that way. But it is what it is. I don't get a reset, so I'm just gonna do the best I can. And I don't know. I think there's something very spiritual about that, right? At least there is to me. So, yeah, I totally feel you. I think that is a great way to phrase it. Oh God, let me see if I have a. Oh yeah, I think going back to even the early days, you've always used scary games as kind of an incentive, if you match donations, or back in the day it was, if I get to 2,000 subscribers, I'll do Outlast 2, that kind of thing. Has your relationship with scary games changed at all? Have you learned to like
No,
them more?
I hate them. I don't like being scared. I and I think I've kind of narrowed down why. And it's because I don't like feeling like I'm not in control
Hmm.
in a lot of ways. Because there's so many aspects of my life where I feel like I'm not in like my health,
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
example,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I don't like not being in control. And when I feel like when I am playing a scary game, there's like no control. Like when I get scared, I
Yeah.
there's a moment where I am not like I am outside of my body and my body is just doing whatever it's doing. So like the
Hmm.
screaming and the like I've there's been times I've thrown my controller like I don't like that. So, but I do it because like if it encourages donations and if it's for charity, like I'll do it. But I also just don't like being scared. In general, like, I don't like scary movies. I'm not a big Halloween person.
Hmm.
Uh, Not that Halloween is necessarily scary, but, it's just not as someone who is, like, an emo, some people say I'm a little goth, like, I don't like Halloween, which is I feel a little blasphemous, um but yeah, it's just not my preferred way of consuming entertainment.
Hmm.
It's just not for me. I prefer things that are like I prefer puzzle games or strategy games. Like those work my brain in a way that I enjoy. Whereas scary games, they just like give me anxiety. I
I
have
think
enough anxiety, okay? I don't need scary games to add on top of my mountain of anxiety already.
I know exactly what you mean, and I think like, I don't know. I think as people, they're I think it relates so much to video games. Like, I've been playing. Part of it was because I was interviewing Gotham Paladin, and I was replaying the Arkham series, which was one of my favorite game series, and I found it in middle school, and that was one of those moments of like, holy shit, this like, you can do this in a game, that kind of thing. Um, and I don't know, I think to this day I still play those games, and I take a lot from it in terms of like, I think I've gotten like very into fitness recently, and I think like anime and like video games are definitely one of like the biggest reasons why is because I'm like, oh, those people are fucking sick. I want to be like that, you know? Um,
I want
and
to
I
be like
think
Batman.
like yeah, seriously, and it's also like the feeling of moving in video games is like it's so cool. And especially like superhero games. It's like, dude, I want moving in real life to feel like that. That's fucking sick. Um, and I don't know. I think for you, maybe it just sounds like you like that brain challenge of like, all right, here's the situation. Now let's figure out how to make it work. Because I mean, that's it sounds like that's what you've done. Your whole life anyway. So it doesn't shock me that you'd gravitate towards puzzle games. But um, yeah. Do you still have your replica ocarina?
I do. It's somewhere.
As long as you know,
It's
as long
in
as it's safe, yeah.
I do. It is somewhere. It is God, I have so much music equipment that I've had to like store in my apartment. But it is over there and I haven't pulled it out in a really long time. I did say that I was going to like really learn the ocarina and of course life in and time, you know, spent more time with the bass than the ocarina, um but I thought it would've been cool to, like, learn although it's kind of like a cheap knockoff ocarina, so it's not, like, the greatest quality, so I don't know if I really would've wanted to learn on that one anyway, but I do have it, yeah, it's still here.
Where do you go to get like a high quality ocarina, I guess, is there is that market
I'm
still
sure
popping
you'd have
off?
to, like, probably order it, like, they're not gonna have it at Guitar Center, right? So, probably some sort of specialty retailer or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, Sweetwater maybe? I don't know.
You know what? Well, hey, maybe when this comes out, someone will get you the top of the line ocarina.
Ocarina, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we'll have a music stream with that. Yeah, absolutely love it. Um,
For a while, I was joking that I was like, I'm gonna make a punk band or, like, a rock and roll band with an ocarina, kinda like what Yellow Card has with the fiddle. I'm
hmm,
gonna do the same with the ocarina. I was, like, joking around with that. That never happened, obviously, but would've been
well,
cool if it did.
never say never, Hey, yeah, you're as long as you're still kicking, the dream of a punk band with an ocarina is there, right? But
Yeah, exactly.
and then another one of the genres that I know well, I guess I don't know you're a fan of the genre. I know you're a fan of Hades, so I assume you're a fan of roguelikes, but at least a fan of Hades. How much of like life and I guess Twitch, whatever it is, like how close is that roguelike whatever the term experience to doing that? And I'll give kind of an explanation, a little bit of what I mean, because like with and I've heard you talk about a similar thing of like with Twitch, for example, if you have a stream and it doesn't go exactly the way you want, you go into the next one armed with the lessons from the previous one. It's not literally, I clicked and I upped the stats, but it is kind of like that, a little bit like, maybe it's like yeah, I don't know, maybe you think more about like how you appear on camera or how words come out or whatever it is. How like do you think that roguelite I guess maybe I'm just making a statement more than a question. Okay. I personally feel that like life is basically a roguelike. And I guess I'm curious if you feel that way or if you have a thought on it. And if not, that's okay, and I can ask an actual question.
No, never thought of it like that, but I guess so. Because especially with whatever you do, especially if you're trying to become like an expert at something,
Hmm.
or you're trying to yeah, I mean, if it's a hobby or if it's a stream or, like every day I make mistakes. Um, every day I'm learning something on Twitch. And there's so many variables. And if you look at a roguelike, like how many ways that you can build something, like in Hades, like how many different ways you can stack your boons, or, it's kind of like the same thing on Twitch where it's, for someone who does it as a career, and I hate saying this because it sounds so bad, so I hope people don't judge, but, it's it's a business because like
Hmm.
I have to make enough money to continue to stream. Like I need to make enough money to pay my bills and um and if I can't do that, then I can't stream full time anymore. So it is important that people show up. It is important that I have eyes on stream, especially for things like sponsorships where that's guaranteed income for me. And that takes also the financial burden off the community. Like I don't have to rely on much on subs and tips and things. Like I can rely more on money coming from companies instead. I'd rather take their money than money from my community. But the way that you're valued as a content creator is how many eyeballs are watching you at any given moment. So like, yeah, a lot of the times I have to look at like what game am I playing? Does my audience like it? Am I attracting new people to my community by playing this game? Or maybe it's like my lighting or maybe it's like what I'm doing on stream. Am I talking too much or do I need to focus more on gameplay? Do I
Hmm.
need to create more events for my stream? Like there are so many variables that go into one stream. And this is something that I've been doing for 8 years, right? So it's like constant adjusting and constant testing and seeing what works and what doesn't. And the next day you start over and maybe you tweak something a little bit and see how it does. Like it's constant trial and error to see like what works and what people like and what will make people the most important thing is what will make people come back.
Hmm.
So
We touched a little bit earlier on speedruns, and something I've heard you mention, and that I think is very true, is that a lot of people gravitate towards running the games that they have nostalgia for, they played as a kid. And I think that's absolutely true. It was the same thing for me. But I know you've dabbled in different sorts of retro games. I'm curious, does one jump to mind? Is there a retro game that holds up just with no nostalgia that you could play cold and it's still great?
uh I think one of and this might shock you because I don't play this franchise at all on stream. But I think one of the greatest games ever made that I think anybody can jump into um that really doesn't have like a barrier of entry is Super Mario World for the SNES.
Hmm.
I think that it's one of the best platformers of all time. I think that anyone can play it and anyone can enjoy it. And I don't think that it's hard, don't get me wrong, but I think that's one of those games that, most people can probably get through if they enjoy gaming, so, but, like, I don't think I've ever played a Mario game on stream.
I've never seen it, at least. Yeah, I don't know.
I played Super Mario RPG in, like, my first years of streaming, but, like, that was it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know, I have a fondness for that game, for sure, and,
Well,
I really enjoy watching people play it on Twitch too.
I think I guess to loop it back into something we discussed earlier, I think that's a similar thing to what you said about like Mikey, right? Because I think there is a lot of value in, you can just having only what's needed to be there. And for a Mario game, it's just like, all right, and I've never played Super Mario World, so I'm going a little bit off of cultural osmosis, but I think it's just what's the best platforming we can do? How can we make the player excited? How can we introduce new, all this stuff? And like that's real, meat and potatoes kind of game design. And I think a lot of people would not be confident enough to make a game like that, and they would be like, "All right, here's 20,000 collectibles and all this sort of thing." But I think it's a real skill to, have enough confidence and to be good enough to be able to stand purely just on the foundation of your craft, And
Yeah.
it's a real it's not something a lot of people have. We talked a little bit earlier about lessons you've taken from different people, and I'm curious, for people who tune into your stream and who are inspired by you, just if you could just pick out, and maybe it's different for different people, or maybe it's different, you feel differently each day, I don't know, but is there something about yourself that you would like other people to take from you and to manifest in their own lives?
Like a lesson?
Just
Like advice?
anything. Just well, and tell you what, I could even tell you what like my feelings on it personally. Because I guess maybe that is a hard question to answer, but uh, you know, just anything. Because like you said for like Joan Jett, it was the like hey, a lady can do that,
Ah.
that kind of thing. Or for Mikey, it's the simplicity, or your mom introducing you to video games. Like for someone tuning into you, is there something that you hope they glom onto?
Yeah. Um, I would like people to come into my community, come into my stream, experience my content, and walk away trying to walk away inspired to try and make this world a little bit of a better place.
Hmm.
I do my best to try and brighten up the lives of the people around me. Um, it's so hard. It's so hard right now. I mean, you go on social media, you go on Twitter, it's a cesspool. You go on, you watch the news, and it's like terrible thing after terrible thing, and
Yeah.
you know, uh, there's just a lot of bad things happening in the world right now, and so, um, and I think that us as humans can do a better job of taking care of the people around us. And I try and do that every day. Like I really do try and um make the lives of the people that perceive me, that come into the stream, that make, walk away feeling a little bit better about whatever.
Hmm.
And I hope, and I try my best to support, as many people in the community. I mean, there's so many of us in there, and I do my best to like dedicate my time to try and, whether it's helping someone with a stream setup or maybe it's teaching someone about speedrunning or, whatever.
Hmm.
And I just hope people try to do the same for others, kind of like pay it forward, like a pay it forward, because um I don't think we're gonna make it as a society unless we're in this together. And I don't think that we're gonna get very far unless we help each other out. So I think that, if it's, offering your time to someone or helping someone in their craft, or if it's donating to a charity or whatever it is that you walk away from and you feel inspired to make this world a little bit of a better place, I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I did a I did an interview with this wonderful Italian digital artist, Fat Gomez, and I did a lot of research on skateboarding for that interview, because he's like big in the Italian skate scene. But um, one of the things that I think is so special about skateboarding to me is that like that is a community that's been able to enter to some degree the mainstream, like without changing its philosophy one iota,
Hmm.
which is like that is there's almost nothing in the world like that. Because, to succeed in music, realistically, you just have to deal with a bunch of assholes, you have to deal with like shitty managers and fucking like
Yeah.
asshole sound guys and, you know, terrible companies like Ticketmaster and all this stuff. And it's like, there's just not a way around it because that's the system they have. But like skating is one of those things. It's like, you gotta, back in the day, you got a camcorder and you don't even need a park, like some of these guys like Andy Anderson, they just go around skating in the street doing crazy shit, you know? Uh, so I don't know. I think there's something so and I think Twitch is a similar thing, right? Like, as long as you know, have the juice, as long as you have something, doesn't even have to. There's not one universal thing, You're a different streamer than, I'm terrible at pulling names, so the only one I can think of is Ludwig. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I feel that you have been able to, maintain your ethos throughout all of these levels of success, and I'm sure it will continue with the levels that are yet to come. But, so yeah, shout out to you for that. I guess there's not a question,
Thank
but
you.
you
I
are
know it's
welcome.
it's important to, especially when you are building a community or trying to, support a group of people, like to know what you stand for and to know your values and know what you want to be known for. Um, and that's one of the things when I talk to new streamers or mentor streamers, like, oh my god, how do I get started? I said, before you do anything, you need to figure out who you want to be and what kind of stream you want to be. What are your values? What are you going to stand by? And when people walk away from your stream, what do you want them to say about you? You can't do anything until you know that.
Hmm.
And so that's something that I was really big on when I really started to be, become a full-time streamer and realize that this was going to be something a lot more serious than I originally intended it to be. I was like, okay, I need to make sure that when people talk about me, that they're saying what I want them to say about me. Like that I'm proud of what they're saying about me and that I feel like it reflects who I am as a person. So that's something that like is really, really huge for me, is making sure to stick to my values.
Well, I want to get you out of here on time, so I'm gonna wrap up with the
Oh, no
couple.
pressure. This has been so nice.
Thank you. Well, yeah, it's well, okay. You know what? I'll throw in a couple potpourri questions for you, but um the what's the phrase I'm looking for? I heard Phoebe Bridgers say once that her go-to karaoke song is "Welcome to the Black Parade" because it's one of those ones that gets everyone just immediately singing along with you. Do you find that to be the case? I know when you're in a spicy mood, occasionally you'll do My Chem or Emo karaoke. Is there a song of theirs that you jump to?
Okay, Welcome to the Black Parade is such a great song. It is such a great song to karaoke because it is true. Like when I go to a karaoke spot and I'm like, okay, what song do I want to do? What's gonna get the crowd going? Like sometimes you'll look around, you're like, oh, these people probably don't even know who My Chemical Romance is, Like, um, there's years and years ago. It's so sad because they're not there anymore. There's this karaoke spot that was like right in the middle of multiple neighborhoods. So you
Mm,
had like such a cool, diverse, like eclectic group of people that would go there. And so like you would get the most random karaoke songs there, and it was always a good time. And one time I was like, "Ugh, I don't know what song to sing, so I'll do Welcome to the Pop Parade and see what happens." And I'm not kidding, there were people everybody in there knew every word to the song, and I was like, "Damn, this is the karaoke song to play." But yeah, it is a real good one, like, even if it's in a crowd that you don't think it will do well, like, it will. It will. Everybody
yeah.
knows that song.
You know, I guess I don't have a segue for this because it's completely unrelated. But everything you know about bass, I think, was self-taught. And now that you've been able to, become, a bassist just purely on your own, just through your own chutzpah and grit and everything, just learning it on your own. Would you have an interest in going back and maybe not going back, but would you have an interest in taking what you've learned and putting music lessons on top of that, or you're just like, no, let me keep it totally my own thing?
I do think that there is. I would love to learn more music theory and like have more professional training. That would be great. I don't necessarily regret not having any professional training, because I think that a lot of what I've done over the years has been a lot on my own instinct, which has gotten me to where I am today,
Hmm.
and has made me like a better. I wouldn't even say like a better musician. I would say like I have a lot of awareness over who I am as a musician, my capabilities as a musician. Like, there's no ego here. You know what I mean? Like, I know that, I am not going to be able to compete with 99% of the musicians in LA because a lot of them have, you know, um, musical training or have it like a crazy amount of experience or whatever. But I do think that in some ways, like it has held me back. Just because music theory, I think, is important to understanding a lot about how to like write music or how to arrange music, and that's something that has always been a challenge for me. While I have written songs in the past, I do think that I would be able to do a lot better if I did have that knowledge. So, I'm definitely not opposed to professional training, um, but it's more of like the
A
time.
wish list thing, yeah.
It's so music is kind of like my number one priority is Twitch and all that. And while I do
Hmm.
incorporate music in it, music is definitely more of a hobby, versus something that's a little bit more on the serious side. So.
Yeah. So we've touched on MCR at a few points, and I think uh, that sort of the sentence doesn't make sense. I guess I'm curious. I have my own couple that I would single out, but are there any MCR songs that you would single out that like just that deserve the level of recognition as "Welcome to the Black Parade" or Helena or whatever it may be?
Um, I think I love Dead. Dead is like my favorite MCR song. I will scream that song to the rooftops. I I also think that like songs like Sing and Planetary
Mm,
and like the dancier songs,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
don't think got the recognition that they deserved. I think it was too different that
Mm,
people it just didn't.
I know what you mean.
This is what frustrates me about hardcore fans of sometimes with bands or whatever is that like they expect bands to say the same, and it's so
Mm.
important for musicians and for artists and creatives to evolve and to try new things. And I think that like with that album they tried something new, and I thought I think it's fantastic. Like I love that album. I think it's cool, it's different, it's funky, it's dancey, like, it's just different and cool, and people didn't like that, and it made me so sad because, um, I think that we should support, especially artists that we respect and love and value, and especially ones that have impacted us on an emotional level. We should support them in their creative endeavors as well, so, I think that some of those, like, dancier songs should be given more flowers than they have.
I know you went to the 2021 Game Awards, and I'm curious, like, as an entertainer, as a, presenter adjacent person, are you able to like turn off the part of your mind that like is analyzing those sorts of things? Like, can you just be in the moment and just appreciate it, or are you thinking like, oh, so they're setting up this, and are you thinking about it and like as you would a stream? Does that question make sense?
It does make sense. No, usually when I go to like events like that, I try to be there in the moment. I
Hmm.
try to be, especially when it comes to something that impacts what I do so much, not necessarily the award portion, but like the announcements, what's coming out, like that type of stuff really captures me because it's just so exciting to know. Like games are so exciting, the art behind gaming, like anything from, obviously like a AAA game that has all of the bells and whistles to like something that's like an indie developer that's getting the recognition for, their passion project. Like that's the kind of stuff like when I go to those events that I'm really, I get really, like, focused on, but
Hmm.
not so much, like, the ins and outs of, like, how to put on an event, even though I do put on a lot of events, and I do a lot of organizing in that way. I can't imagine doing it on a scale of, like, something like the Game Awards, but I
Hmm.
have put on, like, in-person events before for charity streams or, like, uh, a couple years ago, I helped organize, like, an LA meetup with, like, the official Twitch LA meetup, organizer, um which was a lot of work, by the way. In-person events are so much work.
Yeah, I can
Or,
imagine.
digital events like tournaments or whatever. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I do a lot of events, but usually if I try to go to like an in-person event where I'm not working, I
Yeah,
try
yeah,
to
yeah.
like be there in the moment the
I
best I
tot
can.
Yeah, and it's oh gosh, that's such a skill, and I wish I was better at that because like you know I just can't like the part of my mind that makes me want to do interviews and all these sorts of things like that is I cannot turn that off, and it's like I can count on pretty much one hand the number of times in my life that I've like been able to get out of that mindset, and like that's one of the things I love about like are you familiar with the band Always, by the way? I mentioned them earlier. They're a Canadian like indie rock band. I can send you some of their stuff. They're like one of the best bands in the world. I love them so much. Actually, also this isn't related to anything, but I interviewed the Abby Blackwell who played bass on their last album Blue Rev, which was like so fucking cool. She's like one of the coolest people ever. And it's also like bass players never get good interviews, so I was like stoked to do that and be like, finally, I there's a good one out there. But
I love that.
um yeah, I was so stoked on that. But like one of the things I loved about that show was like it was just so amazing that it was like there was like no possibility of like thinking about anything else because I was like so overwhelmed by how good it was, and it's like dude, it was one of those things. It was like my fever dream of like an indie rock show, like the projections they had were so like twee and just like perfect for the music and yeah, I don't know. It's like that's so it require it yeah, I don't know. It requires a level of like skill, charisma, whatever to like for me to stop the like the inner monologue, you know. And I had that at MCR too. I think more so in the encore because it was like I had no clue what they were gonna do, and the people in the pit were like so stoked about it, which I was kind of just feeding off that because I think they played a couple songs from like conventional weapons, which I just didn't. I'm not, I guess, a big enough fan to like know all that stuff, but yeah, I'd like, dude, the energy when they like the whir of like planetary is like it was such a
Yeah.
I that's like the greatest feeling. I had the same thing at Paul McCartney opened his tour in 2022 in Spokane. It was so fucking cool, and I went there with my mom. It was great. But I didn't know like Wings or his solo stuff that much, and there was like a 5 song run where he was kind of playing that stuff, and I didn't really know it. So I was like, oh, okay, okay, kidding me. Um, and then he plays Get Back, and the whole stadium's like, or arena was like, "Wah!" Just lights up. It's like, dude, that's like that's I don't know. That I feel like if more people experience that, we would be in such a better world. Yeah.
Oh, live music, a lot of what like really gets me is like the energy in the crowd.
Yeah,
I will
yeah, yeah.
never forget. So there is this there's this really shitty music venue out like in the Inland Empire called the Glass House in Pomona. And it's like a
Hmm.
pretty well-known venue like in Southern California. It's where like all of the like like we would all get all of our high school friends would, like, jump in a car and, like, drive out there
One of those,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like, it's just one big room, there's, like, a real shitty snack bar in the back where you can get, like, really stale pretzels and, like, really gross nachos or whatever,
There you go. Yeah.
but it's, like, one of those places that, and I will never forget, I saw Anne Boleyn and Scary Kids Scaring Kids there, and, like, when you go there, you're like, "Oh, it's just gonna be, like, a punk show or a rock show or hardcore show, whatever." But I will never ever forget this concert because and it's not a huge venue, but the crowd was so loud and singing every song so loud, you almost couldn't hear the band because everybody in the crowd around us, like, even when Anne Boleyn was playing, like, the lead singer just, like you could see his face, he just, like, could not believe the fans, like, and how stoked they were just to be there and to sing the songs and to hear the music, and I'm like, that was one of my best experiences at a concert, and it wasn't even because of the band, it was because of the people in the crowd were just like, the energy was just the vibes were immaculate, you know? So, I think that that's, like, a really big part of the experience when you go to a concert is, like, being able to feel the energy of the people around you and, like, connecting with those people around a common love of the music, you know? So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like that's the every art form, whether what's the phrase I'm looking for? This is true of sports, video games, books, whatever it is. Every art form in life has at least one thing that is completely unique to it, like for video games it's the interactivity, and like the things you can do with that, it's infinite, and like that's why I love like Hideo Kojima, for example, is he's one of the people who is like pushing that interactivity as far as it can possibly go. I would say the same thing about like Trent Reznor in music, taking what
mhm.
is unique about music and then just like, all right, let's turn it up to 11 and see what the fuck we can do. I think that's one of the things about live music is like that crowd feeling. You can't. That there's no. I mean, I guess maybe like sports, like soccer arenas maybe have a similar ish kind of thing, but like it's just there's nothing like it, And like I love live albums, for example, but even still, you're not getting the whole thing. You
No.
got to be in the room, which like I love that and I think that's such a I don't know. I think our world treats art as very disposable. And frankly, a lot of the art being made, I feel, is disposable. But there is a lot of really exceptional stuff out there, And I think one of the great things about live music to me is it has, and it's not a cheap thing of like it's available for 48 hours, buy now. It's like it's very unpretentious and just like, all right, this is going to exist now in here, so you better show up or you're not going to get it again. It's like, I love that. I think that's awesome. I think anything that encourages people to, my I went to college for urban planning. So I had a similar thing to you of like studying something, and then I did urban planning for about a year and a half until like a few months ago actually, and then I quit for a bunch of reasons. But um, I think like one of the things that I really liked about oh God, there's so many branching stories here. I'm gonna ramble for a bit, and I'm gonna hope I stick to landing on it. But um, I wanted to do. It didn't end up happening because I didn't need an elective credit, but I really wanted to do an independent study on how music scenes form because that was like the really interesting stuff to me. Like, because I think the thing people don't realize is like the world is not some. It's not something that's written and it just is like that's part of why it kind of irks me that people can't think about like politics, for example, more creatively because it's like it's not like our economy was like handed down by God and it's like it just has to be this way, you know. It's
Hmm.
not like we have to have a shitty healthcare system. Like these aren't things, written into the fabric of our genetics. Like it's just shit that people have decided to do. And it's I don't know. I feel like we as people and citizens, community members, entertainers, whatever, any adjective you want to put on it. I was thinking, I was like, is that the right one? But I think it is so important for people to, you know, at, at least be willing to question things. And sometimes, the answer is not always going to be we need to burn it down. Like there
Hmm.
are plenty of times where shit's working. It's like, cool, we'll maintain it. But I think it's important for people to understand the world around them and to be able to, see if something is working and, if it is, why is it working? And if not, why is it not working? And that was the thing I was really, really interested about with like music scenes is I think there is, a series of things that politicians and elected officials and all, planners could do to like make every city, be like Seattle in the 90s. Like there's not I don't think there's any reason we can't do that. It's just that no one cares enough to try, you know? And that like really bothered me. So yeah, I don't know. I think I got a lot of what I got into planning for was like that kind of stuff and then it turned into the thing of like, nah, we're kind of just here to make developers money and I was like, I don't like that very much. It's like I don't know. It was that thing of like I just woke up every morning like hating myself and like this feels terrible,
Yeah.
like so I yeah. I don't remember where I was initially going with that, but yeah, that's all right.
But that's
Uh
kind of like where we're at right now too, where it's like the reason why things aren't changing is because the people in power or the people that have money don't want it to change because they're making
y-
money, you know?
yeah,
Um,
and
yeah.
that's the thing of like I don't know throughout life, just I'm always trying to kind of connect the fabric of the world into these different things and being able to do I have a that's the thing about this like shirt is it I always get these little like stringy things and I keep being like is that a hair uh yeah I don't know I love this shirt though it's a combo I found out recently this is like I think I might have mentioned it in chat at some point but this is like a fan like jersey from the show Blue Lock that is like my name on it instead of the characters so I always feel like a badass wearing it because I'm like dude I'm in Blue Lock it's so cool and then I combined it with like this like rave shirt that I bought for a zine fest that I was tabling at and it's like this is like my like dream like perfect outfit I love it so much but um anyways, I don't remember any of what we were talking about or what I was going to say, but I do have a question, so I'll get to that. Um, I mentioned earlier the kind of my love of like superhero games and the movement in those. I'm curious, and maybe nothing jumps out to you, and if so, that's perfectly fine. But do you have a favorite video game like movement system? Because like for me, that stuff's just like
Ooh.
drugs to me, you know?
Uh, I do. You did mention Hades earlier. Like, I love the smooth, fast movement. I think
Hmm,
about like Dead Cells. I
similar
do
thing,
like the
yeah, yeah.
movement of Dead Cells too. Like anything with a good dash with iframes is great. Oh,
Hmm,
something that I actually have really started to enjoy more recently are parry systems,
hmm,
specifically Lies of P.
hmm.
It feels really, really good to me. Um, but it really just depends on what I'm feeling and what what mood I'm in. Because I think that there are certain studios that do it really, really well depending on the genre. Um, Supergiant Games, like Hades, that game feels so good. That game feels so good. The movement in that game feels so good. Um, you feel like you have a lot of control, even though you're like moving all over the place, right? So I love games like that. Anything that you can get a lot of good movement that feels like clean and reactive. Like sometimes you'll get games that feel a little sluggish. I don't like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, but Hades does a great job.
Well, I just have two last ones for you. I'm so
Okay.
grateful to you for giving me a little extra
Yeah.
time there. The two questions I ask everyone. This is the setup for the question. This isn't the question itself. But are you familiar with the Voyager Golden Record?
No.
So in the 70s, NASA sent off two rockets or probes, whatever term, into space. I believe they were to, I think, photograph Jupiter and take different scientific measurements, send it back to Earth. On them, um, each of the rockets had a record, literally a golden plated record that included, I don't know the exact number, something like 32 songs from humanity. There was Indian music, Native American music. That's Indi- There's music from India, comma. There's music from Native
Uh-huh.
American cultures. There's jazz music, rock. Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good was on there, all sorts of different things. And I'm just curious, if you were in the room, is there one song that you would have been like, nope, this absolutely has to be on there?
Oh, I don't think I can answer that question.
You don't have
Damn.
to.
God, you can like you can cut yeah, there's just so many. I mean, you can think of like a Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, or like you think about so many different, like there's so many important songs in our history. Like what
Hmm.
do you choose? Like do you choose like I don't know, I think like Bohemian Rhapsody would be an obvious choice,
Hmm.
but maybe that's not the best choice, you know?
Well, I don't think it matters what's best. I think I'm curious as what jumps out to you, you know?
Like I think one of the best songs of all time is Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls.
I don't know if I know it. Maybe if I heard it.
I'm sure you would,
One
if
of those
if
ones?
you heard
Okay.
it. It's one of those,
Yeah.
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 Like so I don't know. If it were to be like one of my favorite songs or something that like really impacted me, it would probably be something from like 90s alternative rock and roll or emo, or even
Hmm.
like there's some classic rock songs that I would probably put. Like I like Tom Petty was huge in shaping like my love for music when I was younger, because my parents loved Tom Petty and that's all that would play in my house. Um So I don't know, but if I were to like have to choose only be half of mankind, it would probably be something like a Queen song or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really hard question.
You did great. No, you're
Okay.
crushing it.
I don't think I
Um,
really answered it, but that's what I got.
Honestly, like I try to structure questions so that it doesn't really matter if people answer them or not.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like a lot of interviews are like quick time events, and I don't like that. Because it's like I feel like it puts people in a position of feeling like they succeeded or failed, which is like
Yeah.
I think that is a very uninventive approach to interviewing. So my intention is to make questions that um, kind of give an illumination of the person whether or not they actually answer them. So you're doing great. But last one, it's funny. I'll give a long ramble before the introduction just because we've talked about. You know what? I'm just gonna start talking and hopefully it makes sense. But this is this was like the question I've asked every interviewee. The Voyager one came in a little bit later. I'll say the question itself and then I'll explain where it came from. So the question is, what kind of art do you think the world needs more of right now? And the reason I came up with it was actually, funnily enough, it was because I can't find where it is now and it drives me crazy. But I saw an interview with Gerard Way where he was talking about, and I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it was something effective. He said he started My Chemical Romance because he felt like that was the art the world needed more of, and he's talked about that all the time. He talked about Hesitant Alien. You mentioned it. just with the reunion. And that idea just like stuck in my mind for so long, that yeah, which I've never mentioned that in an interview, but you're getting the scoop. That's where that came from. But in any event, yeah, in the mind of Coco, what kind of art do you think we need more of right now?
Any, all. I think that, especially in the world today, I mean, I'd probably lean more towards meaningful music. Um, but I do think that our world is in a really tough place right now. And when you look at also like the development of AI and, like I think we're gonna start losing a lot. You look at things like, you know, um, physical media going away. You look at with streaming services and things, how like shows and that type of content is starting to disappear because there's no way to get it. And like the archival of that kind of stuff is a real problem right now. So I just think that like any and all art, whatever we can get our hands on, whatever people can produce, whatever comes from the soul, whatever has an emotion behind it, like that's important because I think our humanity is something that we're starting to lose in the midst of social media and politics and wars and all of these things that are happening in our world. I just really think that art brings us kind of back to kind of like our raw selves, and it makes us feel human. So like I don't care what kind of art we need more. I just want more of it, whether it's music, whether it's like uh movies, or whether it's painting or sculpture or whatever's going to keep us human, I think is really important. I just really think that art brings us kind of back to kind of like our raw selves, and it makes us feel human. So like I don't care what kind of art we need more. I just want more of it, whether it's music, whether it's like uh movies, or whether it's painting or sculpture or whatever's going to keep us human, I think is really important.